Canadian Sport Fishing on TSN. Brought to you in part by Ford of Canada. Quality is job one. It's working. Johnson and Evinrude Outboards. And Quaker State Motor Oil.
Welcome to Canadian Sport Fishing. I'm Italo Labignan. You know, when it comes to fishing lodges, one name is pretty well recognized throughout the world, and that's Plummer's Lodges right here on Great Bear Lake. More trophy fish have been landed out of this lodge on these scales when it comes to Arctic char, grayling, and lake trout, probably than any other lodge in North America. Well, this week I'm going to be fishing for lake trout right here on Great Bear Lake, and I'll also be taking a fly-out trip to the Tree River to experience some great char fishing. Why don't you join me for some exciting lake trout action?
When the traveling angler gets the chance to experience the fishing in the northern reaches of North America, he or she quickly realizes that this is, for the most part, a barren region with long, cold winters and short, warm summers. Canada's Northwest Territories contain two of North America's largest freshwater lakes, Great Bear and Great Slave. At first glance, these waters seem clear, cold, and lifeless. But to the surprise of many casual anglers, they're also the home to some of the world's largest landlocked char, the lake trout. The lake trout fishing is so good in Great Bear Lake that literally 50 to 100 lake trout between 10 and 20 pounds can be caught and released daily. Plummer's Lodges operate several lodges on Great Slave and Great Bear Lakes, plus a dozen fly-in day locations, including one with exceptional Arctic char fishing on the Tree River. If you want to enjoy what is unquestionably the best lake trout fishing in the world, make sure to experience the fly-in fishing trip of a lifetime at Plummer's Lodge on Great Bear Lake. Up next, non-stop lake trout action. Canadian Sport Fishing on TSN. Simply the best.
This is something. You know, it just amazes me that no matter where you troll, when you're up here on Great Bear Lake, the lake trout are everywhere. This isn't a really large fish. I think it's going to be maybe in the mid-teens. But boy, they've got so much energy. The other thing too is you get different types of lake trout. Which one do you think this one is, Chris?
This one looks more like a grayback.
Hopefully later we'll get to show you some of the red fins that are really bright. Oh, look at this fish head shake. Long fish. See if I can get them a little closer. Boy, they've got a lot of energy. You know, it's amazing when you think of how cold the water is. In this bay, it's a little warmer. If you were to guess, what do you think the water temperature's in here, Chris?
Well, the water temperature is going to be about 40 to 45 degrees right now. It's a little warmer than out in the main arm there. It's closer to 40.
I don't think this guy's ready yet. I'm going to swing him around. The last thing we want is a wily lake trout that starts flapping around. When you're using big hooks and big spoons like that, you want to make sure that fish is tired out. They are beautiful. I'm going to swing around just a moment. Okay. If you can, see if you can grab them right around that tail. And have you got a good hold on them?
Yep.
All right, long fish. I bet you that fish is almost 3 feet long.
Yeah, it's got a good length on it. Not much girth, but
if you can hold them, I'm going to take that hook out. And look at that, this fish is hooked just in the top of the mouth. They should pop out. I've pinched the barbs back on these hooks. Let's see if I can get that one. If I can get one out, I know I can get the second one out. There we go. Perfect, hooks are out. Now, nice lake trout. This is a gray one. Look at the models all the way down the side. No real red marks on the fins like some of the ones that we're going to get a little bit later on. Nice fish. Okay, let's get him back in. Alrighty. You might want to hold him a little bit just to get him to revive. Long
he's a strong one.
Yeah, he's gone.
There he goes.
Oh, look at that.
Right down to the bottom.
Yeah, now that fish hit a Lucky Strike spoon. This is what we call a canoe spoon back in Ontario. This particular one is chartreuse and it's got a bit of a band of orange, and on the backside it's a nice silver color. Now I'm sure that the fish can spot this thing from pretty far away. I'm running another color on as well, a white one. We're just going to see which one's going to produce more fish. Okay, well, why don't we go right back up along this break?
All right.
There's definitely fish here. Boy, This is rugged lake trout fishing. You know, when you think of the Northwest Territories, you can see that things are pretty barren. There is a tree line, but it's sparse. So whenever you get a breeze or wind that builds up, it can really cool the air temperature down. We've had overcast skies with quite a bit of rain. And we just went in tighter to shore using lighter line, and I just hooked up on a fish. It'll be interesting to see how big it is. This wind is pretty strong, so I'm just holding, and I'm literally towing this fish. Come on up so you can see it. I don't really want to horse it because I don't know how big it is. Sometimes they'll start fighting really hard when you get them up near the top. I'm just gently lifting it. I don't think it's one of those red fins because it's kind of just tugging. I can't imagine what would happen if you hooked a really big fish. Now, what are some of the fish that have been caught in here in the last 2 weeks?
76.5 pounder was caught back in the bay over there.
Man.
Had a length of 50 inches and a girth of 35.
Wow, that's a big laker.
That's a big fish.
Well, that'd be a new world record.
Would have been a world record. Yeah. It was released.
Well, this fish is dogging, and I'm going to try to lift it slowly. I haven't got a look at it. I'm guessing that it's around the 10-pound mark, but that's just a guess.
Saw a flash.
I see it. It's way down there. Boy, is that water clear. Looks like you can see down about 30 or 40 feet. Doesn't want to come up for some reason. I don't think they like that light.
Heading down to the bottom.
Come on. It might be a redfin. I can see nice white streaks on its fins.
Yeah, it's a redfin.
Okay. Nice and easy. Come on up. Here it comes. All right. First time it's coming towards the top. And they'll probably start fighting now. Not bad. Okay. Oh, now it's starting to take off. You might want to put your glove on. And we'll just take our time. Look at that. He's trying to dig right down. Bright fins or what? Come on. I'm trying to get his head up. They don't like to get their heads up. He's just hooked in the top of the snout. Nice head shake. Okay, I'm going to back off. When you think he's ready, I know he's probably going to roll in that line. Look at this. Just a little bit closer. And, oh, not quite. See if we can get him away from that motor. All right, so you can get him in the boat. Great.
There she is.
Look at that. You can see those fins. They've got such a nice white outline. That fish isn't as fat as some of the others we were catching. Why don't you swing them over? And that hook should come right out. We're using barbless hooks. Look at that. Just popped out. Gorgeous colors, very orangey fins. Some of them have really red fins. Pretty fish. Okay, well, let's get him back in. Should be able to see him take off in this clear water. He's gone. Yeah, he just took off.
Healthy fish.
Yeah. Now, that wasn't a big fish. You know, when you think of Great Bear Lake and you get fish up in the 60, 70-pound range, when you're talking about light line fishing like I am right now and just using a small quick fish, it's a lot of fun. That fish took me about maybe 5 minutes to bring in without really pulling on it too hard because the hooks can pull out, especially when they start wrapping themselves in the line. Okay, are we going to get back on course? Yeah. Should we troll up there again? Good one. Let's see if we can get a bigger one.
National Fish Registry Update. Great Bear Lake has consistently produced lake trout of world record proportions. Have you ever wondered what it might be like to fight and land a new world record fish? Well, we're going to give you a pretty good idea by showing you the live footage taken of Rodney Harback fighting and landing the new world record lake trout. It was mid-July 1991, and Rodney was trolling one of the many shallow water bays on Great Bear Lake. The water temperature was cold, and he had already caught several large lakers in shallow water. After hooking another fish, Rodney realized it was fighting a lot harder than his previous fish, which was in the 30 to 40-pound range. As the fight continued and the fish neared the surface, both Rodney and his guide realized they had truly hooked a monster. But not really knowing how big it was, Rodney was careful not to fight the fish too quickly. The guide positioned the boat in shallow water to prevent the large laker from diving deep. Within a half an hour, the fish was finally close to the boat. A quick check of the scales reaffirmed that the fish was a potential new world record. The guide quickly radioed the main lodge to alert them that they were bringing back a fish to be weighed on accurate scales and that they believed the catch to be a new world record. Rodney went to shore. A few pictures were taken by a second guide, and lake trout history was rewritten. Rodney Harback set a new world lake trout record. His fish officially weighed in at 66.5 pounds. And we saw him catch it.
Size of that sucker. Huge.
If you think you've caught a record fish or know someone who has, write to the address at the end of this program. Ford, Angler of the Year qualifier. Here is a great example of an adrenaline-packed spring catch. Craig McEwen from Langley, BC in Region 1 landed this 28-inch rainbow trout caught on a red and white wool Jensenay. This entry was caught from the Stamp River in southern BC. Mark Tarnowich from Mississauga, Ontario does most of his fishing 5 minutes from home. For example, this colorful 31-inch coho salmon was caught in the Credit River in Region 4. Don't forget, every qualifying entry goes into a free draw for a trip to the West Coast and a chance to compete in the Export A Inc. Salmon Showdown. Coming up, Karcher, focus on your environment. Karcher, focus on your environment.
You know, Arctic ground squirrels are one of the most common critters that you see when you're up in the Northwest Territories. Not only do they domesticate very easily, and you can actually play with them and feed them, but they're very important when it comes to the food chain, because animals like wolves, foxes, and even birds of prey will feed on them. So they're very important when it comes to the food chain. Look at him enjoying that piece of bread. They do look like a squirrel and kind of like a groundhog. Boy, I bet those teeth are sharp. Now look at that. What a beautiful natural scene. You can only experience this kind of thing if you travel and you look at nature and the environment. Guess what, Chris? I think we're going to get wet.
It's coming.
Chris was saying that there's a really good stream mouth just down a ways, and we're just about to get there. And sure enough, I got another hit on the chartreuse quickfish, and it's just starting to rain. And I can't put the rod down because I want to get this fish in, right? Come on. I'd like to get a look at this thing. I'm trying to heave it in as fast as I can, at least close to the boat, and it's just waiting. This is really standard for a fish to do that, especially up here. Remember, the water is cold, and lakers don't really go crazy when you hook them. They usually start thrashing when you start to get them up. There you can see a couple of pumps on the rod, so I'm just going to ease very gently back so we get a look at it, because I have no idea how big this fish is. Come on. And it wants to go behind the boat.
I can see it down there, but can't really tell how big it is.
Okay. What I'm going to do is just step back here with you.
Behind the back of the boat.
Okay, not bad. It looks like a tenner or so. Boy, that rain's cold. Yeah. Okay, he's on top.
Oh, look at the color on that.
Yeah, bright fish. Look at that. Nice lake trout. Right here in the Northwest Territories. This guy's probably about 10 or 12 pounds. Get back a ways. Okay, I'm going to step back to give you some room. And he's diving. Boy, these fish do not like to come up. Look at that. He's going straight down.
Straight down to the bottom.
I'm going to lift him up slowly. And he's coming up. He likes that motor. Look at him go back there. Thick fish. Okay, have you got the tailing glove on?
Yeah, we got it.
Good man. See if we can turn him around. Look at that. Nice and easy. Okay, have you got it? All right, Chris. Look at that. Now, look at the size of these fins. This fish almost looks like a grayling, even the dorsal one. And they're so bright. No wonder they call them red fins.
Yeah, the red fins are a subspecies of lake trout. They don't quite get as big, I tell you, but they sure are pretty.
Well, this one's really fat.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get my pliers out. I've got him hooked just in the side of the mouth, which is almost perfect. Okay, just going to pop that out. 1, 2, and 3. And guess what? It's out of there. Perfect. One last look.
Beautiful
Big,
fish.
fat fish. Nice fins. We might as well get him back in.
All right.
Look at that. Great Bear Laker. Whoa, he's gone. You know what? I think we better get closer to shore. This wind is picking up. I'm not going to put my rain suit on unless it really starts to pour. But I can see that creek mouth just over there. You think there's going to be a few more fish there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm all set.
Lake trout live in a unique cold water environment that is controlled by water temperature and availability of food. If you apply the SMART system to your fishing and study the conditions, on this trip Italo quickly realized the water of Great Bear was still very cold. This meant that the lake trout would definitely be roaming some of the shallowest water in search of food. The approach Italo and his guide took was to troll along sand flats where the first depth break occurred between 5 to 10 feet of water. For this type of shallow water trolling, the top producing lures are quick fish plugs and an assortment of large spoons, such as the Lucky Strike series. If a certain bay or shoreline didn't produce fish, Italo would try this presentation again in another similar area. Ice-out lake trout are aggressive feeders that can cover a lot of water to search out chunky morsels of food, such as whitefish and ciscos. If you stick to a productive plan, it doesn't take long to hook up on a fish in Great Bear.
Now, this fish is really going down. Might be a little bit bigger than the other ones. You know, I'm sure glad I'm doing the fishing and you're doing the grabbing. That water's cold. You can see I've got gloves on here just to keep my hands warm. Now let's get a good look at this fish. Nice thick lake trout. Hey, I think we're going to be surprised at how heavy this fish is when I get him in the boat here. You can certainly tell when the fish is a little bit bigger because that weight makes a big difference when it comes to fighting. Okay, he's coming up. Nice and easy. He's nice and fat. Come on. Look at that. Oh, get away from that motor. Okay, I'm going to try to turn him for you, Chris. And if you can get your glove on him.
There we go.
Good one. Now, he's a little bigger.
Ooh, look at that, eh?
Very thick fish. You think he'll go about 12, maybe 13?
10, 12.
Yeah, I think it was deceiving. If you can hold him up, you can see how big this belly is. Look at how fat he is. How long do you think that fish is, Chris?
He's going to be close to about 26, 28 inches, I guess.
Yeah, I bet he's a good 12, 13 pounds. Okay, swing him around. And I'm going to get that hook out. Again, hook lightly in the top. Boy, I'm doing such a good job hooking these things. Not too deep. Maybe it's because I'm setting the hook right away. Man, hook's out. Now hold him up one more time, nice and broadside so you can see how thick he is. Boy, you know, for a Great Bear lake trout, that's a good sized fish. Some of the fish in here will reach weights of 30, 40, 50 pounds. But if you're getting fish this size all day long, I don't think anybody would complain.
Nope.
Okay, let's head him back. And you might have to revive him just for a few seconds. I brought him in kind of quick, so he should be all right. Nice laker. They've got such big fins. I like the way you're doing that. I guess you know from practice that sometimes you got to get them working there.
Oh.
Up next, Abu Garcia, tip of the week. Abu Garcia, tip of the week.
Lake trout in the Northwest Territories reach such large sizes because of the type of food they feed on. It's big. They feed on things like whitefish and even smaller lake trout. So anglers going after a real trophy should be using larger lures and plugs. Some of the most popular lures, no question, are spoons. The first one that I have here is made by Lucky Strike, and it's called a half-wave spoon. And as you can see, it's a fairly wide spoon, short, a combination of flash and also some red and white paint. So when this is going through the water, it really flutters and it looks like maybe a whitefish going through the water. The second spoon is also made by Lucky Strike, and it's called a canoe spoon. And as you can see, this one is chartreuse with a little bit of orange, and on the back side, again, it's got a really nice chrome flash. Now this lure is a lot thinner and longer. That means that it's going to drop down deeper and it's going to allow you to troll a little bit quicker to get the same action. Now when it comes to plugs, there's no question that quick fish really are one of the most productive. Now I've got a couple of sizes here. This is a smaller one, and as you can see, on both of these I've taken away the front hooks. A lot of the fishing here at Great Bear Lake takes place in shallower water, water that's less than 15 feet deep. And that's because the lake trout move onto those areas to feed on those smaller lake trout and also on whitefish. So that's the reason you want to get rid of that front hook. Now both this size quick fish and also the larger one has a really wide wobble. This particular model will go down to about 10-15 feet. The larger one, the K16, will go down to about 30 feet. So it's great to fish if you're fishing in deeper water for larger fish. Now you'll notice that on all my hooks, I've pinched the barbs back, so they're back as far as I could, and also I've sharpened them. You know, lake trout have really big mouths. And especially if you're using light line and a long lead, you have to make sure you have razor sharp hooks to get a really good hook set. You can get all these tips and more in our Canadian Sport Fishing magazine. Don't forget to order your shopping guide. Now let's get back to that great Great Bear Lake lake trout. It's a long fish. Oh, big head shake. Boy, as soon as they come to the top, they head right back down. I'm trying to lift him. Big boil. He doesn't want to come up. Look at this. He's saying, no way. I want to go back down. Nice wide tail. These fish have to grow slow because of this cold water. You know, how old do you think like a 13 or 14 pounder would have to be?
Well, it said that they grow anywhere between a ½ pound to a pound a year, which would put a 13, 14 pounder at anywhere from 15 to 26 years old.
Wow, that's an old fish. I can't imagine what a big one then, you know, how old it would be, like a 50 pounder.
Well, you look at a 50 pounder, you're looking almost 100 years old.
Amazing. Boy, this fish is still taking out line. This is excellent. You know, for a minute there, it looked like it was going to get dark because there was so much cloud cover, and I forgot that it stays light up here all the time, this time of the year. The sun will barely go down to the horizon, I think at about 1 or 2 in the morning, and then it's right back up again. So for those people that love to fish, you can pretty well fish 24 hours a day. Now, I don't know if it's going to be ready. This fish has got lots of energy. Okay. Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. He just made it past the tease you there.
Yeah.
Boy. Yeah. This is a bit bigger fish. No, almost. You could feel it, right? I could see your hand kind of going for it. Yeah. Good one. Okay, just keep him in the water until he's done thrashing. That's one thing you got to be careful when you're using treble hooks on lures like a quick fish. When that fish starts thrashing, it's pretty easy to get hurt. Okay, I think he's ready to come up.
There we go.
Nice long fish.
Look at that, eh?
Beautiful. Typical at plumbers.
That's got to be close to 28, 30 inches long.
Oh, I think he's at least 30. He's pretty long. He's not that heavy, mind you, like some other fish that we've caught today, but he's a nice, long, and lean fish.
So, nice gray back.
Yeah. Let's turn them over. Look at this, right on the edge again. Have you got a good hold of them?
Yep.
Good. Just pop those out. Perfect.
There we go.
And very gray. What a color variation compared to those red fin ones. Look at that. Will he take off? He wants to go.
He wants to go.
You want to make sure he's got lots of energy. He's gone. Boy, you talk about wilderness fishing, you know, I think when you think of the Northwest Territories, people get images of Inuit or Eskimos, muskox, caribou, and we saw a lot of that on this trip. But most of all, we had great fun catching nice lake trout. When you think of it, some of the biggest lake trout in the world last year, a 66-pound fish was landed right here on Great Bear Lake. I was fishing very close to the area where it was caught, and that was exciting enough. But the action is non-stop. The only thing you have to look out for is the weather, because you are so close to the Arctic Circle, it can get really unpredictable. You know, it doesn't matter what time of the season you come up, whether it's in June or later on in August or even into early September, you can have some great fishing. If you'd like to plan a trip right here to Great Bear Lake, you can contact Plumbers or STN, and they'll make all the plans for you. Conserve our waters, good fishing, and we'll see you next week.
Canadian Sport Fishing on TSN. Brought to you in part by Ford of Canada. Quality is job one. It's working. Johnson and Evinrude Outboards. And Quaker State Motor Oil. If you're planning an outdoor adventure, anytime, anywhere, contact the Sport Fishing Travel Network at 1-800-667-CAST or write to the address at the end of this program.
On the next Canadian Sports Fishing, Henry and Italo use big fish techniques for trophy pike in Manitoba. Be sure to catch it. Sunday, November the 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific Time on TSN.
Italo and Henry.